Hello and welcome to yet another Starcross cast. Before I jump into the game and the players and, my normal thing, I want to make an announcement. I've announced it in many places, but this will be the first time I've announced it on my YouTube channel. I am hosting a tournament starting on Saturday, October 11th, 2014, which is at this time about 3 days from, or 2 days from when you're probably watching this video. So, get excited for that. It's going to be a 2v2 tournament between some pretty big names in the community, some names that have been featured on my channel before. So it'll be fun to watch those in action. They're going to be competing to win free copies of Ardennes Assault COH2 single-player campaign. So that is going to be a fun time, and I'm going to be making a separate playlist on this channel for those games, and it's going to be a lot of games, so expect to see those soon. There's probably going to be way more videos than anyone's actually going to want to sit through and watch, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so a little bit about our players. We have SOE Overlord and Blackstorm playing as the Allies, both Soviets. And I'm not sure what SOE stands for. I'm not familiar with this clan. But their opponents are Sarantini and Chukonoku. And one of the reasons I was reminded to mention the Star-Crossed Cup, which is the name of my tournament, is because Sarantini and Chukonoku are both going to be competing in it. They will be on the same team. So that is something for you to look forward to as well if you are Sarantini and Chukonoku fans. It looks like we have Stern Pioneers moving up here towards the cutoff and a Kuba wagon defending the road here in the back. Penal Battalion is going to be moving up and catching those Stern Pioneers. If they can stay at medium range and yellow cover, they can definitely win that engagement. We'll see how Sarantini responds to that. Looks like he's moving the Kuba wagon up into position. Meanwhile, here in the south, we do have another Kuba wagon from Chukonoku trying to deal with some combat engineers and conscripts with the Maxim moving up behind. So it looks like they have chosen opposite tech buildings here at the beginning. So that's good to see. We'll give them a very diverse, capable army right here off the bat. Sniper on the field as well. Interesting to see that decision when they already know that there's a Kuba wagon on the field. I would have thought a scout car might be a better decision, but we'll see if he's able to make good use of it. Meanwhile, down here, an attempted flank. Oh, the combat engineers actually managed to finish off that Kuba wagon. That's some pretty unfortunate Kuba micro. Looks like it was still facing forward when it died. He must have just left it AFK. So that was a bit of a poor play by Chukonoku there. Meanwhile, Sarantini's Kuba wagon is doing just fine against these penals, and Stern Pioneers are kind of getting picked off at range actually by those combat engineers. If he chooses to close the distance, he may be able to win that engagement. Looks like he's just going to sit there and try and cap while under fire, though. Those combat engineers are in yellow cover. I think the combat engineers will win that engagement if he doesn't move closer. He definitely risks losing that. Oh, and there he goes to retreat. Sniper moves up, picks off one Volksgrenadier before being forced away. Sarantini, I think, being a little overly aggressive here, actually going for the cutoff right outside the Soviet base. When really, I think just setting up a defensive line here in the town might work a little better for him. Combat engineers will get chased away here by these Volksgrenadiers. Meanwhile, in the middle, conscripts getting pushed back by these Volksgrenadiers. I hope he notices. There he goes. We also do have a battle group headquarters up here, and Chukonoku going with the mechanized regiment headquarters here. And I would not be surprised at all if he decides to get a Stuka first. That's a pretty common choice on this map, especially against Soviet Tier 2 and snipers. Stuka will be a very good choice, but I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see a Puma or a flak half-track either. All three options are certainly perfectly reasonable. And we are going to see a Puma. Okay. Interesting choice. I think that's the one I would disagree with the most. Their opponent has not made any vehicles at all. no scout car. So it's really only going to be able to do light harassment of the snipers and other various infantry. But of course, if he can keep it alive and vet it up until the enemy's tanks start arriving, it'll be quite the asset. We don't have any doctrine choices yet from these Overcommando players. Oh, we do have Spec Ops from Sarantini. Good. Always fun to see that one chosen. It's one of the rarer choices. Certainly possible to make it work, though. It's a perfectly good doctrine, especially in team games, because teammates will benefit from the command tank's aura. Sarantini having to back off a little bit here from these penal battalions. Penal battalions are just excellent on this map. Their flamethrower makes them so good at these medium range engagements, especially when they can stand in cover for some buildings. It's really an excellent map for penal battalions. However, they are getting suppressed by that Kuba wagon. He's doing a nice job of keeping it at range, laying down suppressing fire. That's good to see. Puma also doing a little bit of light damage. 2 kills already. Very slowly beginning to vet up. 3 kills actually. Flamethrower going off on those Volksgrenadiers. It looks like maybe they threw a grenade. Almost taking out that squad. That Maxim will be forced away by the Puma as well. So the Puma is actually doing not half bad actually at infantry harassment here. I think it's gotten some lucky snipes. I think it's actually doing a little bit better than I was expecting it to. 4 kills already after just 1 engagement, even at long range. I'm not sure that if the coaxial was even firing, and if it was firing on units in green cover, so I think it's performing. It's off to a good start. Volksgrenadiers here in the house are going to get flamed out by Blackstorm's combat engineers. There is another Kuba wagon, however, produced by Chukonoku, trying to suppress, but unfortunately a Maxim here in the south is going to force the Kuba wagon to reposition. Puma, meanwhile, is going to continue to harass, getting some nice kills in, but the vetting up process is pretty slow, as you can see. Chuko, what is he doing with that SWS? That's weird. Scouting? I guess. We do see that Overlord has gone with shock troops, and that is going to be, ooh, I don't know the name of this one. As for your propaganda artillery, the KV-8 and bomb strike. Is that terror tactics? It's terror or anti-infantry or something like that. So that's going to be an interesting choice. I hope he can make good use of the KV-8. This doctrine does leave him without access to any heavy-duty call-in tanks such as the T-3485, the IS-2, or the ISU-152, so he is going to have to play very hard and fast this game to make the best use of that doctrine. Pretty serious push here by Overlord. 2 penal battalions screening for 2 snipers, picking off Volksgrenadiers at a pretty alarming rate. Penal's doing a great job of tanking the damage up here in front, screening troops. I guess that's really what they're for. And they're getting the job done very nicely for the elite snipers there in the back. Meanwhile, Blackstorm moving up with a Maxim flamethrower, taking up position in the house. Guards hitting the field as well, so that will mean that Blackstorm has chosen guard motor coordination, I believe is what this is called, with the T-3485s. Maxim repositioning. And this is a pretty common defensive position for the Overcommando West to set up, but I'm not sure if it's going to work out against Soviets. You tend to get just bombed to death by Katyushas and heavy mortars. So I'm not sure I agree with that truck placement, but so far they have managed to hold their own. Full squad of guards goes down to that early looks. That's a 9-minute look, so that is pretty quick. I believe that's going to be Sarantini's first fuel purchase. Take a look. Folks, overs, looks. Yes, it will.
Prepare yourself.
There's the retreat bug that we all know and love. Thank you, Relic.
Send orders.
And Maxim squad goes down.
All men are focused on ready.
Maxim spam used to be considered one of the best strategies Soviets had to offer, but that bug is almost nerfed to the Maxim. If you think about it, makes them really just a huge liability. The odds of you handing it over to the enemy are just increased 100-fold. The looks probably is the best counter that the Overcommando West have to shock troops, so it's good to see Sarantini hunting those squads down, getting them off the field. Infiltration grenades going out from Sarantini. He's going to start to be able to spam those really hard. Only 10 munitions. Oh, nice grenade right there. Almost wiping that squad. The conscripts have recovered a PTRS from a wiped guard squad. Volksgrenadier is now getting sniped though. We actually have a field gun moving up. It's probably going to catch that Kugelwagen in the arc. Oh, the shot misses though, hits the terrain. Flamethrower moving up on these clumped troops. No lucky crits though. Ooh, high explosive barrage going off. Looks like it was aimed a little short. Those squads will make it clear. Snipers moving up to fire on those Oversoldaten. They make a really juicy target. Stuka firing, this could be devastating. Oh, sniper just makes it clear. Unfortunately, it was angled a little too diagonally. If he had aimed it along the shore, could have wiped 2 snipers, I think, or at least 1. Certainly would have wiped 1 sniper. Meanwhile, over here, Sturm Pioneers hold up in the graveyard. Penal Battalion's making a pretty aggressive push. They will be screening for 1 sniper and 2 Maxims. Unfortunately, the Stuka Barrage didn't quite catch these Maxims. So they will be able to push up. Possibly coordinate yet another charge on the battle group headquarters. Of course, any flank around the south will get shut down. The Schwer Panzer headquarters. What is that? Oh, we have propaganda artillery going off here, forcing back some Panzer Fusiliers, and that fuel will remain in Soviet hands. Meanwhile, this one is falling to the Soviets as well. Spuma is now up to 8 kills, but still really only just has a hair of vet. Most of its vet will, of course, come from dealing damage to vehicles. Orders complete. And so far, the enemy haven't fielded any. Panzer II pushing away some combat engineers. Maxim suppressing these Volksgrenadiers. And Penal being fired upon by the Puma here. Volksgrenadiers moving up through the center. Combat engineers are actually moving up to give sight for a field gun down here. Kugelwagen trying to position itself. Combat engineers, of course, don't make great screening troops because of how fragile they are. Looks like he's making an attempt at saving or recovering this Maxim, and he will be able to get away with it. Sarantini choosing not to chase. Oh wow, I didn't have resources on this whole time. Oops, sorry. Snipers firing on Volksgrenadiers, they'll be forced away. And those snipers are really bleeding these players quite hard. We have 14 kills on one, 18 on the other, so combined that's a little over 30. Kugelwagen catches some shock troops, but the damage at that range is a little too high. It's forced back. Stuka firing in the middle again. Ooh! Oh! Doesn't quite clear that one. And does actually minimal damage to the gun itself, so this gun actually is in pretty good shape. This one will need to be repaired, though I don't think it will survive another barrage like that. T-34 hitting the field. Interesting, so that means that he has gone with Tier 3, and I guess that's actually no surprise, considering that he has chosen a doctrine with no Colin tanks other than the KV-8. Since he probably doesn't intend to just spam KV-8s for the rest of the game. T-34 seems like the logical choice. Making pretty good use of it here. Should be able to take out that Lux. Rounds the corner just in time, though. Sarantini trying to micro it out of harm's way. The T-34's turret is just horribly positioned, and it looks like the Lux actually got taken down by his teammate's field gun, so nice positioning of that field gun. to trap that looks and give it no escape. Propaganda war going out again. In this area, looks like it forced back this same squad of Panzer Fusiliers. Oh, the Kuba wagon actually gets caught by the field gun there, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that was. Yep. This actually has two vehicle kills, one Kuba wagon and one looks like Sarantini is intending to set up his next truck very close to his battle group headquarters, but for now he's keeping it safe behind this building. Snipers continue to do heavy damage to these Sturm Pioneers. They will be forced to hide behind the building, and wow, he actually only has 3 kills on those Sturm Pioneers, which just goes to show that closing the distance is still pretty difficult, even with their durability increase. And we actually have STG upgrade on these Oversoldaten. Interesting. I think it's a little early to be getting that. There's a huge munitions expenditure, and they're not very durable at that 0, so they can have difficulty closing the gap. It's much easier to vet them up at range with their LMG-34, but we'll see if he's able to make good use of that. He's probably going to struggle against these snipers. Stuka Barrage levels that building, but it looks like it inflicts no damage to anything else. And I'm not sure if there was a squad in there. I think there was a Maxim inside. See a bunch of corpses. More Obers here, throwing infiltration grenades, dealing nasty damage. Oh, in the deep snow, they couldn't quite get clear of the grenade, but fortunately they will just barely manage to round the corner. And that squad will make it to safety. We do have the STG Oversoldaten set up here in some green cover. They their infrared STGs actually allow them to partially ignore their opponent's cover bonus, which explains why they just focused on that conscript squad so effectively. Snipers moving up here through the north, probably going to get some shots on these Sturm Pioneers. Before forcing a retreat. Actually, no, they're moving back down here towards the middle. Propaganda warfare going out on Sarantini, but of course his retreat point is right here behind the building, so that won't have a particularly dramatic effect. Snipers, however, are taking advantage of the pinned Volksgrenadiers to get some free kills. Both of them vet 2 now. Puma continues to roam and harass, 9 kills now. Hasn't had that much of an impact though. That being said, we will note that Chukonoku did go Puma straight into Stuka. He's probably going to be following those purchases up with his next tech building, probably his Schwerer Panzer headquarters. If I had to guess, I would be surprised to see him get a battle group headquarters, but we'll see what he decides to do. AT guns are oddly positioned here in the south. They're quite without support. Sarantini noticed this, he could probably clear one of those. Ooh, no he couldn't, because we have T-34-85 is hitting the field, so Blackstorm has gone with the doctrine that will allow call-in tanks, as we know, guard motor coordination, so that's going to have a pretty dramatic impact if he decides to push hard with those. Oversoldaten, of course, will be powerless to stop him. In fact, there's really nothing that could stop an all-in push from these 3 medium tanks in this area. They could definitely wipe out that Puma. In fact, that Stuka is in grave danger if it doesn't make its way back to base soon. I think that Blackstorm is kind of wasting his opportunity here, though, to sort of slam into his opponent's lines and inflict massive damage while he still has shock value here for these units. Now that his opponents have seen them, they have time to respond and react. He really would benefit from just diving down this road at that Stuka. It would never be able to get away. That Puma is rather out of position too. Looks like he's maneuvering a little awkwardly here though with these line of sight blockers. He's also going to be staying in range of a Schwerer Panzer headquarters, taking pretty nasty damage from these Panzer Shreks. He's not taking advantage of his ability to crush or push either. Ooh, KV-8 actually hitting the field. Nice coordination between these two teammates, making a push on 2 separate fronts, but it's unfortunately these tanks are already rather wounded. They're going to be forced back, and unfortunately they just didn't really close in on the Puma and try and take it out. They didn't close in on the Stuka. They just kind of wasted their shots versus infantry, and they sustained quite a bit of damage. So I think that those units could have been used a little more effectively when they were still fresh on the battlefield and their opponents weren't quite ready, but now Sarantini does have a Panther, the Command Panther rather. It's going to be quite difficult now for these T-34s to have their maximum possible effect. Stuka firing. That gun is destroyed. I was right, it was not able to survive a second barrage, and this one still manages not to actually sustain any damage, surprisingly. T-34 is trying to finish off the Schwer Panzer HQ. Command Panther also taking heavy damage from the one remaining field gun, exposing its rear armor. But it looks like it will be able to round the corner and get clear. I think that may have been a bit of a waste of marked vehicle unless he intends to dive. But clearly he does not. Propaganda warfare going off here, forcing back one squad of Volksgrenadiers. Ooh, nasty shot from the T-34 there as it's charging the Puma. He could definitely finish this off now, and it looks like that's exactly what he's intending to do. It looks like they're focusing their opponent's trucks rather than focusing down their high priority units such as the Puma or Stuka. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. It's a tactical, or not a tactical, but rather a strategic decision of what you consider the most important to destroy, and destroying tech structures is, of course, very beneficial in the long run, whereas destroying high priority targets like the Stuka or Puma has a higher benefit in the short term. Looks like the ML-20 is firing once again on this battle group headquarters, and that clumping. Oh, sniper picks off the retreating squad. Yikes, that is going to put Sarantini in a nasty position. However, he does manage to steal this field gun down here. Tanks moving up to retaliate now. Command Panther coming down. Field gun has also repositioned to do some pretty significant damage. So that's going to force that T-34 away. Command Panther certainly also doing what it can. T-34 looks like it may get away. I'm not sure. It looks like Sarantini intends to chase with his Command Panther here. Other T-34 moving up to screen. Oh, Panther shot misses, and Sarantini's going to give up the chase. Move away. Stuka barrage goes off here in the center. It looks like it was off target though. Both snipers still doing just fine, and these penal battalions appear to be fine as well. Ooh, that's a heavy mortar, I believe. Yes, 120mm mortar also firing on this battle group headquarters, and I think it will go down if they can't field a response to this. In fact, even if they could field a response, there's no way that it would survive even one more mortar barrage or one more howitzer barrage. There's really nothing they can do at this point to save it. And there's the satchel charge. Oh, inflicting some pretty heavy friendly fire, but finishing the job. ML-20 firing way in the back here. I think he fired that blind. He's just trying to randomly get some lucky hits. Almost gets that Volksgrenadier squad there.
The enemy is encroaching on our territory.
Propaganda warfare, forcing a retreat from some of these squads over here. Guard rifles moving up on the fuel. Soviets do have great fuel control, maintaining control of this point for most of the battle, and I think this one as well. Over Commando West really in a precarious position here. I think the Soviets have had relatively good unit preservation as far as their vehicles are concerned. The T-34 and KV-8 still alive, both T-34-85 still alive, but where they are kind of falling behind is in their ability to repair. It's going to take them quite some time to get their tanks back on the field. And it looks like the Oberkommando players are going to be able to take advantage of that to regain a little bit of territory. These snipers have just been devastating. Almost 60 kills between them. Wow. If we take a look at damage, Sarantini has a massive lead for damage, surprisingly. He must have been getting some good shots off on the T-34s with his Command Panther. Possibly also with the stolen field gun. As far as kills though, Overlord, certainly no surprise that he has such a lead there, almost hitting 100, 60 of which are from his snipers alone. Blackstorm trailing a little bit behind with only 61. But hopefully, now that he is bringing in these Colin tanks, his damage will start to overtake his teammates a little bit. Chukonoku actually doing the worst for damage right now. Despite having a Puma, unfortunately he hasn't been able to use it to its maximum effectiveness against his enemy medium armor. I don't think I've seen a single use of aimed shot. And I think he's been generally trying to keep it out of range because he knows that even just the tiniest slip up with two T-34-85s charging straight at you pretty much means a dead Puma, so he can't really afford to be too aggressive with it. 4 T-34-85s actually, and this force, I think, should be more than enough actually to just completely end this game. I really don't think that there's anything the Oberkommando West could do to stop an all-in charge from all 4 of these tanks. Oh geez, a Schwer Panzer HQ right there. I don't know if it's going to survive this charge. Stuka is firing. Looks like it fired on, ooh, that Maxim, clearing it out entirely. This is just a massive army of tanks for them to contend with, though. Unfortunately, it looks like Blackstorm's not really microing all that well. Kind of just sitting in the arc of fire of this Raketenwerfer. Just sort of taking a bunch of damage he doesn't need to, and he could just dive right in and obliterate everything, but he's just firing from range when he should be charging. Command Panther, marked vehicle goes off, and I don't know if this Command Panther is going to survive this. We do have coordinated fire being used on that T-34, and it will go down. Looks like the T-34s are going to go in deep. Look at that incredible speed on the Command Panther. That is combat blitz, making it just ridiculously fast. And Chukonoku actually has fielded a standard Panther, and another T-34 is taking heavy damage. It needs to get to safety. Ooh. Oh, the Panther snipes the T-34 at maximum range. And that charge was a little bit overly aggressive and a little bit poorly microed. I think he sustained too much damage in his initial engagement unit to be able to dive so hard into the enemy base. And of course, he was not really ready for the second Panther. I think he should have just contented himself with destroying this structure rather than trying to dive straight into the headquarters. But that being said, if Chukonoku had not fielded that Panther at that time, I'm not sure. Oh, nice shot from the howitzer there. Sarantini actually reconstructing his battle group headquarters here in his base sector. And like I said before, if you're up against Soviets, putting a truck here is almost just asking for trouble. You're almost certain to get artied out of that defensive position by the mid-game.
Orders complete.
Because the Soviets just have so many indirect fire options, it's ridiculous. They have their non-doctrinal mortar, their doctrinal heavy mortar, the Katyusha, the howitzer, the high explosive barrage from their anti-tank gun, and the B4. So really, it can be quite difficult to hold an entrenched position on this map against Soviets unless they've chosen purely doctrines that don't offer any indirect fire. And just look at the insane damage that the KV-8 is unloading on that Schwer Panzer headquarters. I really think constructing there was a huge mistake. Not even close to being capable of defending that. Stuka barrage goes off on those shock troops, inflicting some losses. field gun's moving up here to catch that command Panther. Very nice. It's going to be forced back immediately. Give that field gun a little bit of vet. T-34 is inflicting pretty heavy damage on those Volks Grenadiers. They'll be forced away. A head-on charge with Volks Grenadiers is almost certainly doomed to fail against the T-34-85 as they're, I think, probably one of the tankiest medium tanks in the game, aside from the Panther, obviously. They just have tons of health, so it's really difficult for Volks Grenadiers to DPS them down. Up here we do have a Puma going in on the KV-8. The snipers will be forced to retreat as well. The Puma is also Vet 2 now. And I don't know why he's being so defensive. He could easily go in on that thing hard. But I guess unit preservation is the name of the game, and he doesn't know what might be waiting for him here in the city, so he just decides to pull back, take territory, and worry about winning engagements later. And I think that's a smart move. But again, utilizing good judgment, knowing which engagements you can win, which ones you can't is critical. And he definitely could have inflicted a loss on his opponent there. He could have taken out that KV-8. He had chosen to pursue it a little harder. Panther getting some nice shots off on that KV-8. It's going to be continuing to vet up as a result. Ooh, devastating bombing run. He drove right into that. What was he thinking? Oh my goodness, and a maximum range shot from that field gun bounced as it blitzed to safety once again, which a lot of people on the forums think is honestly an absurd usage of the ability. It's supposed to be used to make an aggressive charge, spearhead, and assault, but 90% of the time you just see it used as a get out of jail free card, just to sprint away from almost certain death. And really, I think that Panther pretty much deserved to get destroyed, driving directly into a bombing run. Puma taking some shots. It is in ice, though. Needs to be careful. Fortunately, I think this stream may be too shallow for vehicles to sink in. Panther making good use of shot blockers to maximize its damage output while receiving very little in return. Snipers continue to just wreak havoc, just inflicting massive losses. What a great investment by the Soviet player. Stuka also doing excellent work in turn. Take a look, we will see it's now Vet 1. With 39 kills, you would think that it could vet up a little faster. It's almost ridiculous how difficult it is to vet up some units, and that one is really just crazy how hard it is. Panther moving up to try and take shots on the T-34. It will expose itself to that field gun though, netting it Vet 1, and it will be forced back. Ooh, nasty shot there. Those Fusiliers will be forced away. And just, wow, what is Chukonoku thinking? Setting up these forward base positions. What is he doing? He's just giving free veterancy to this tank. I don't understand. Oh, jeez, it's almost like he wasn't watching this engagement at all. And heavy damage from grenades, losing his SWS. Ouch. This is gun continuing to keep Panther at bay. The T-34-76 is actually still alive. Has 19 kills and it's now Vet 3, so that's good to see. This would actually be a good time for it to transition into a slightly different role. Map harassment is actually one of the best things you can do with your T-34 at this point in the game. Potentially sending it up here to capture territory, potentially using capture mode here on this victory point if there are no other units around. because it really doesn't have much to offer against the enemy's Panthers. Unless, of course, you can manage to flank it, but flanking it once it starts to have veteran scenes on a road, bullets, and all of this other crap, basically be impossible with well micro Panthers. It really kind of becomes not that useful unless you have like 7 of them. You just try and brute force your way to victory. Jagdpanzer are hitting the field from Sarantini. I think that's a pretty good choice. This Stuka Barrage could be really nasty. Oh! That was a little far forward. Didn't hit any of this stuff back here. We actually have the Combat Engineers repairing a Maxim. So good to see those team weapons being maintained and repaired throughout the course of the game. That's very important. Maxim does force away some Oversoldana, and it looks like Chukonoku, or Sarantini has managed to get them to Vet 3. So, it will become quite an asset if you can keep them alive. The Open Commando West is actually somewhat lacking as far as assault infantry options are concerned, so having access to those STG Oversoldana can be very helpful. Heavy damage going out on that mortar, but it looks like it will make it away just in time. We do have a T-34 moving up here in the south for Kettenwerfer, trying to counter. Looks like the victory points will fall to the Soviets again. Speaking of victory points, it's 173 to 217, so things are pretty much dead even as far as that's concerned, but the Soviets really need to try to put the nail in the coffin and finish the game out before any King Tigers or really nasty things arrive. The Soviets both just are just swimming in a sea of fuel. Overlord in particular just has a ridiculous amount of resources at his disposal. But he's pop-capped. He's really struggling to field any more units because he's just pop-capped. But that does mean once you hit your pop-cap, that means it's time to start being really aggressive. Try to make big plays with really aggressive pushes. The idea being that if you suffer even losses with your opponent, if you're floating this much resources, you'll, in theory, be able to replace your losses much more easily than your opponent will, whereas if you just kind of stagnate, keep it all in the bank, you're not really able to take advantage of your excellent unit preservation here in the late game. Which is pretty much what unit preservation will translate into around the 37-minute mark, is 100 out of 100 pop-cap army and a ton of resources, which means that you really have not been quite aggressive enough. You really need to keep your pop-cap in mind. If you're being too conservative with your units, you're just going to get pop-capped, and then you won't be able to take advantage of your continued resourcing. Panther is getting oddly aggressive there. I saw that coming about a mile away. There it goes, sinks into the ice. Not sure what he was thinking. Mark vehicle goes out on the Command Panther, also pretty overextended here. Looks like he's not going to utilize Blitz though. He does make it into range of the Jagdpanzer, which will serve as a very nice screen, but there's more armor on the way. 2 T-34s down here, 2 up here, hiding behind the church. KV-8 looks like it's going to spearhead a charge here. It does have a pretty decent health pool. Another KV-8 moving up here. Unfortunately, the KV-8 can't really contribute in the battle against the Jagdpanzer or the Panther. Look at all these shots just bouncing, and he switches targets to the Volksgrenadiers. Looks like it could pay off though. Very nice. Full squad goes down. We do have marked vehicles still up on the Command Panther, but they're just not able to penetrate that frontal armor. Oh, Stuka Barrage kills a sniper. And it looks like the Soviets are making a mass retreat. They've fallen a little too low. All of their shots are just bouncing. Every shot bouncing against that Vet 3 Panther. It's just too much for their medium tanks to take on. They needed heavier guns. Wow. KV-8s both make their way towards the north. I'm going to try to chase away a squad of Volksgrenadiers. Unfortunately, it looks like Overlord's not paying attention to his combat engineers here, and his Panzer Fusiliers will force the remaining squad away. Ouch. It's unfortunate that he's using his howitzer here after the engagement when he really should have used it during or before the engagement to soften up the enemy's lines or hope for a few lucky hits against enemy armor. I would also point out that the precision bombing strike was not used at any point during that, and if it had, I think it's plausible that they could have inflicted some damage on enemy armor, or at least forced it to reposition in an inopportune way. Vet 4 now on the Panther. Looks like a T-30 or a KV-8 rather went down up here, right there. It's 2 Pumas, so Chukonoku actually going with yet another Puma. Stuka barrage goes out on nothing really. Some base structures. Oh no, it actually destroyed. Oh, it destroyed the ML-20. Very nice. It's unfortunate that the static artillery pieces are so fragile, almost ridiculously easy to take out with any kind of off-map or even on-map artillery ability. It would be nice if it were at least possible to repair them afterward, rather than them getting one-shotted. Although I think it had already sustained damage from a Panther shot that got lucky and hit it, so there is that. Combat engineers capturing territory here. And these Volksgrenadiers will be forced away. Heavy mortar is oddly out of position and it's going to be forced to make a retreat. Oh, but gun carrier gets killed and the retreat halts and the gun dies. And that could actually be extremely problematic if Chukonoku decides to steal it, but he's not paying any attention and he might actually let it get away. Nope, there it goes.
We have fallen to 100 points. Do not let this trend continue.
Stupid barrage goes out here in the middle, inflicting some damage to these Maximum guards. KV-8, I think this might be a fresh KV-8, I'm not sure, moves up doing some damage. He certainly has the resources to just keep replacing them. I think he may not know for sure what he wants to spend his resources on. We actually have a bombing run going off, possibly in this area. Yeah, it looks like it. Plane coming in, T-34 is pulling back. I'm not sure that that's going to hit anything really though. Fortunately, this truck was in the radius, so that's good. A lot of back and forth in the middle now over this victory point, but that Vet 4 Panther is just such a deterrent to the Allied armor.
God! My leg! My leg! If you're not dying, you're not trying! Enemy squad attacking! Engineer standing by. IL-2 bomb strike may now be called in.
Illusion IL-2 standing by.
It's a little bit strange to see Overlord being so aggressive for territory here in the north when really it's really quite critical at this point to start focusing on victory points. He certainly doesn't need any more resources. He's got an insane amount of fuel and manpower in the bank. Really, if anything, he should just be cranking out more and more armor with his just massive quantity of resources and try to overwhelm the south victory point. Or, at the very least, hold the center. Maxim set up here will start to suppress the victory point, but unfortunately it was a little bit out of position, and those overseas guns are going to clear it out, no problem. Stupid barrage does not manage to hit this field gun here. Ooh, nasty damage on that T-34. The Jagdpanzer is now Vet 2. Doing very nice damage, but KV-8 is also inflicting some heavy losses on infantry forces in the victory point. They're going to be forced to retreat. Penal battalions potentially also getting wiped. No, there they go. Just so much anti-tank power between this Command Panther and the Yags, not to mention the Pumas, makes it just extraordinarily difficult for the Soviet armor to do anything, really. Even this tiny little exposure gets punished so hard. You must move back. Certainly to the T-34-85 is much more durable than a Sherman, for example, but once these over-commando vehicles get this much veterancy, it hardly matters. It'll be a pretty effective deterrent to anything other than just a massively and perfectly executed flank. And even then, I think that they would struggle when that Panther has access to combat blitz. Pumas have access to aim shot. Certainly, they can't afford to be doing that. Just sitting in front of a Rocket Morpher and trying to pick things up from range isn't going to work. They're going to have to take a different approach. Ooh. And another ML-20 just gets one-shotted. It sucks that that happens. Puma catches a KV-8 here. It's going to be forced away. Shock troops. I'm not sure what wins this engagement. Looks like it will probably be the Stern Pyos. Either way, Overlord is going to back off.
Enemy forces are neutralizing a sector.
Things are really coming down to the wire for victory points now. Fortunately, it looks like the Oberkommando West have pulled ahead, which means that the Soviets would have to make an incredible play at this point to have any chance of victory. Looks like we have the beginnings of such a play here in the south. A large force of Allied tanks are being amassed. Unfortunately, it sounds like KV-8 has gone down. Or no. Or, yeah, right? I think so. I don't know. Ooh, nasty shot there.
Secure! Still in contact!
What is he doing? He really needs to stop sitting in front of Rocket Morphers. I would be really worried about putting on Panthers so close to that ice when it's Vet 4. The last thing the Overcommando players need now is to let that thing sink.
Prepare to execute. Under fire! Dry fire!
Looks like a new heavy mortar has been purchased. Interesting.
Prepare to execute.
Certainly has the potential to be useful when it comes down to these victory point battles. Guards being suppressed. Lots of Axis units covering in this area. The Allies aren't going to be able to do much here without, like I said before, just a huge push. Unfortunately, they're just so hesitant, they have to stay at long range. For fear of getting wiped out by this Vet 5 now, Command Panther. If we take a look at the Allied forces, we will see that Blackstorm has 4 medium tanks. The Overlord has 2 KV-8s. Fortunately, he hasn't really been able to have that much of an impact with his KV-8s because of how effectively the Overcommando players have screened their infantry with their Jagdpanzer and Panther. Certainly the army of Pumas is a pretty effective deterrent too. Jeez, now they're just getting picked off like flies, but the Allies know that the game is basically over at this point. There won't be anything that they can do. So that was a good game. Wow, what a comeback by the Oberkommando West. There was a point here where I was relatively certain the Allies were just going to overwhelm them with their medium tanks, but they just, I feel like they just were a little too hesitant to charge when they just first hit the field. They waited too long, and by the time they decided to go aggressive with an all-in push, it was too late. A second Panther was coming out, and just slightly poor micro and judgment, I think, from the Allies there cost them the game. That being said, I think that the Oberkommando players made a few mistakes themselves. Trying to be too overly aggressive here in the town, I think, was not a very good call. They really struggled in the early game, just getting pushed and pushed by the Soviets until they were back in their base. Certainly the Soviet artillery did a lot of good work this game. So, well played by both players. I hope you enjoyed the game, and if you did, make sure to stick around for the Star-Crossed Cup. It will begin this weekend. It should be a really good time. But until then, feel free to send me replays of your own. I'm happy to do casts for you. Otherwise, thank you for watching.